This is walnut, and today I'm going to be turning it into a 3D carving of the Last Supper. We're going to be going from raw wood to deep carving and finishing it with a look that honestly surprised me. We are going to start this project off with some good old rough sawn walnut. Now, personally, I have a couple of reasons for using rough sawn. One, it's a little bit cheaper than walnut that's already planed down, and two, I actually enjoy using my planer and planing down hardwoods. Today is a pretty hot day here in New Mexico, so before we continue, I'm going to go ahead and refill this porta-cooler. This thing happens to be one of my favorite purchases for the shop. I would not survive the summer without this thing, and it was made here in good old USA. I do have this DeWalt planer that seems to be in just about every small woodshop these days, and I actually love mine because I installed a helical head that I purchased from China quite some time back, and it's been like 2 years since then, and I still have not rotated the blades, and this thing runs like a champ.
So check this out. This is one of my favorite parts about this table saw. It came with this Harvey miter gauge, completely free with the table saw. And let me show you why this miter gauge is so cool. Here we are. We made this beautiful cut, but we got to take off just a little tiny bit more. So we're going to come over here to this side. We're going to loosen this little knob right there. Make sure it's loose. And say we want to do a 16th. We're just going to turn this, the other way. So we started on 15, we're going to do a full revolution and end on 15, and that will make it 1/16 of an inch. And now check this out. Check that out, son. A beautiful, perfect cut. All the way through. Here we have a bit that is literally called the Beast. This is actually an absolutely insane bit. This thing really surprised me on my last project. The company advertises this bit as running up to 1,000 inches per minute at full depth of cut. I believe this one is an inch, and if you guys have ever ran a CNC, you know that removing that amount of material is pretty insane. So we're going to be running it on the Onefinity Elite Foreman, which is one of the best hobby CNCs out there. Now, I don't have the stiffy bar up top, so I cannot run this thing at the full 1,000 inches per minute. I'm probably going to be running it somewhere closer to between 1 and 200 inches per minute, but it still gets the job done in a solid amount of time.
Now, I don't know about you guys, but I love watching the CNC cut. I can literally sit here and watch this thing go all day. It's very mesmerizing, almost like staring directly into a fire. I do have a ton more CNC footage than what you'll see in this video, but I obviously can't include all of it because it would be a very long, boring video. However, if you think you'd be interested in something like that, just leave it in the comments, and if enough people want it, I'll definitely make a video with nothing but CNC footage.
So it's done with the rough cut. We're going to go ahead and clean this stuff up really quick. But I know a better way. Check this out. You guys like magic? I'm going to show you guys a little magic trick. You got a big old mess like this, all you got to do is snap your fingers. That is how you get stuff done. All right, now we're going to swap it out with one of these copper ball nose bits. According to the screen here, all we have to do is press start, which is this little doohickey right here. Check it out. Nothing's happening. Hold up. Wait a minute. Something ain't right. Okay, there we go. For the next probably 10 hours, this thing will be running. So I'll keep you guys updated. Once I have it cut off of the other piece and I have the sides cleaned up, this is how it's looking. And it is looking awesome in my opinion. I love the fine detail from the buildings in the back, the leaves, even the wall texture right here, and especially the clothes. That looks really cool in this piece. Once in a while, you're gonna find some little tiny crevices in here and there that you're not gonna be able to hit by hand with the sandpaper. So as a little tip, what you can do is I have these 1/8 inch bits for the CNC. You guys can really see how tiny that is. These things are pretty tiny. And what we can do is we put them on our Dremel. So say for example I wanted to hit some real tiny areas like in here, we could do that. Sometimes you just got to pick it out like that. Or like right here is a pretty good spot. Let's test it out. So this is how it's looking. The next step is the frame.
Alright, now we're going to cut off a new piece of walnut to start the frame build.
We're going to cut it at about 21 3/8. So this piece is absolutely gorgeous. Look at that grain. That is some insane grain.
Now for the record, the frame itself is so much work that I could make an entirely new video on just the frame. So I'm not going to show the entire frame build in this video. I may actually make another separate video for this, but I will show you guys some of the clips here.
All right, baby, and we have a perfect 45. Look how beautiful that is. Now we have all the pieces cut and lined up perfectly. For the next step, we're going to glue it together. Now we're going to work our way up the grits up to about 2,000. So this is the first time I have ever sanded a wood up to 2,000 grit, and holy cow, this thing is shining. And there's nothing on it. That's not a finish. That is bare wood. So that is pretty cool. And here's a quick shot with a flash on. We're going to be using this carbide end mill from Spay Tool. It's a V-bit. Pretty good quality in my opinion. And I just realized this may actually be a bit of a problem because once I put this piece in, it's not going to clamp it. So I'm going to have to come up with a workaround here. So the solution I came up with was pretty simple. I just decided to use a thicker piece of wood, which is this piece of blood wood here I had lying around. And I put a little walnut spacer and it worked out perfectly. Look at that. So let's get her done. And ladies and gentlemen, she is finally ready. We sanded both the front and back with 2,000 grit. We got the carving done for the domain and my logo. Look at that beautiful shine. There's only one thing left to do, and that is the finish. By the way, if you guys are wondering why there's a bunch of raindrops, it's because it's pouring cats and dogs outside. Let's go take a quick look. Now I do have to go inside to get the finish we're going to be using, but I'm going to have to wait a minute so I don't get wet. I guess we could just chill for a minute. You guys could hang out, We could talk. Just kidding. We're gonna skip to the finish right now. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I have a box here, and if you guys follow my channel, you guys already know what's inside of the box. Also, because it says here in front, we got ourselves some Odis, son. Let me tell you guys, I love this finish. This is an awesome finish. That is definitely going to be a new staple finish for me. And that is what it looks like. It looks a lot like honey. If you guys ever gotten the honey from the farmers markets, that's what it kind of looks like. And we'll just start up here in the corner. Start rubbing that in. Oh yeah, that is going to be beautiful.
So I actually didn't know this before, but Odie's oil only leaves a subtle gloss when you first apply it because I sand it to a high grit and the finish is still wet. But once the Odie's cures and dries for a few days, it's going to leave the wood looking very natural with a matte looking finish.
Now to fill in the gaps of this design, I'm not going to use the Odie's because I think it would just be a bit wasteful. There would be a lot of excess. So I'm actually just going to pull out some oil, some cutting board oil, and use this to fill it in because cutting board oil is a lot more liquidy and it should go right into the cracks. No problem. Just going to be careful, just like that. Or you could use your finger. There we have it. That is our final finish.
Lastly, we're going to do the same thing to the other side and apply the finish to the rest. And here is a quick shot in the sunlight of how this thing is coming out. I am absolutely loving it. And lastly, the most meticulous part, we do the carving.
So as you guys can see, we got the majority of it done, doing what we can with just cloth and applying it by hand. But there are still a lot of crevices and areas that are unreachable with just the cloth and your fingers. And there's a couple of ways we can get around that. One way is we could take the easy way out and just hit it with a very liquidy cutting board oil. But we are going to take our time and I'm going to hit it with some paint brushes. Basically, we're just going to dip it in here and just dab it into all these little areas. Ladies and gentlemen, she is finally finished. Now the finish does have to dry. I'm going to let this sit for roughly 40 minutes and then we're going to come back and wipe the excess. But that's how she's looking right now. Once we have the finish, this is the final product. Check it out.
So this is what the wood looks like once the finish has cured for a few hours, and you can see how it looks a lot closer to a natural matte looking finish. And here are a few final shots of the completed carving, both back in the shop and finally mounted on the customer's wall. This project was definitely a challenging one, but seeing the final result made it all worth it. If you guys enjoyed the video, feel free to check out my other content or visit my online shop at mycraftmanship.com. Link will be in the description below. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.